So the Americans seizing a Venezuelan tanker said to be part of that global shadow fleet moving sanctioned barrels. We're joined now by Matt Smith of Kpler. Matt, thanks for joining us. What do we know about this ship, please?
Yeah, sure, Andrew. Well, it essentially has been sat off of Venezuela since end of October, something like that. It was pretending to be elsewhere, so it was spoofing to say that it was off Guyana. But essentially, this tanker went and loaded in mid-November and then was waiting back off Venezuela. The last time that it was actually seen, though, we were able to identify it using satellite imagery. That's why we know that it was off Venezuela when it loaded. But you have this AIS transponder, which all of these tankers have switched on so that they know where other tankers are and other tankers know where they are. The last time that was seen switched on was in July. And so we know that this tanker has previously moved Iranian crude. It's again would have been loading this cargo to surreptitiously take this elsewhere. There was a ship-to-ship transfer done with the cargo, this tanker, early this week. Either way, this has piqued the U.S. interests here, and they have seized this cargo now.
And I was surprised to learn it is a big ship.
It's huge. So it's a VLCC, which stands for Very Large Crude Carrier, and that can hold about 2.1 million barrels.
You reckon that this is arguably a smart move by the U.S.?
Yes, it is, Andrew. When you consider they've brought all this naval presence off of Venezuela there, the worst case scenario would be some type of boots on the ground conflict there. But by seizing these tankers here, it would be it essentially stops the revenue for Venezuela, kind of hits them where it hurts. And so this is actually a great way here to really hit the Maduro regime. And so it's not only this one tanker, right? We've just heard in recent hours that there are more tankers that are being sanctioned. But it's not only that, it's all of these shadow fleet. We see 60% of Venezuelan crude exports moving on this shadow fleet, essentially going dark. And so, the majority of Venezuelan crude goes to China simply because of sanctions. It can't go anywhere else. China is destination of last resort, is willing to take it. And so what this also does is it then deters other shippers because they don't want to go and collect a cargo there if potentially it could be seized by the US, not just the cargo, but the tanker itself. And so it plays out in a number of ways here to really put the squeeze on the Maduro regime and hurt them in a way which it doesn't involve getting boots on the ground.
In that this could reduce the flow of oil onto the global market, mostly to China, as you say. Is it bullish for prices?
Yeah, and that's interesting, right? Because typically what President Trump does is try to do things that is bearish for prices because he wants to see that price at the pump moving lower. And let's be clear here, the price at the pump has dropped below $3 a gallon on the national average. That's the first time in about 4.5 years. So he's got to be delighted with that. But to your point, sort of 450,000 barrels a day, something like that, is moving to China here that is essentially potentially getting taken out of the market. So there is that latent bullish influence there. This is a key thing, Andrew, right, in that the general backdrop for the oil market here fundamentally is for weakness. But every time we start to see the shift towards fundamentals, we see oil markets moving lower. A geopolitical event such as this happens to lift us higher again and leaves us kind of on a WTI or a Brent basis around that $60 level. And so there seems to be this geopolitical premium, whether it relates to Russia, Ukraine, whether it relates to Iran, whether it relates to Venezuela in this case, that is supporting prices.
So we're looking at a graph here of the massive increase in so-called oil on the water that we've seen over the past few months. Does this include these shadow ships that are sneaking around under a veil of secrecy?
Yes, it does, because we're capturing them via satellite imagery. So everything that is being loaded and exported out of Iran, which is close to 2 million barrels a day in recent months there, we are seeing via the imagery, and that is going into our data. Same for Venezuela as well. And so because of that, that is being included in the commodities on water number. Those two countries are interesting, again, because that is where a lot of this crude heads. basically all of the Iranian crude heads to China. And so we're seeing a lot of that floating offshore now, probably 60 million barrels, something like that, of Iranian crude, just waiting at the mercy of the Chinese to buy that crude and bring it onshore there.
And the Chinese have been significantly adding to their inventories, I guess maybe partly taking advantage of the low prices.
Yes, and I suspect that they may well do that again if we do see prices moving lower. But we are seeing record imports into China so far this month. Granted, we're only a third of the way through the month, but they are importing as much as 2 million barrels a day more than is typical there. And so this goes back to, again, a lot of exports that we saw hitting the market back sort of September, October time. So we've seen Saudi Arabia increasing exports, Brazil, Russia, US, all of these different countries all at once. That has boosted this commodities on water. China loves a bargain, and so they're coming in and absorbing a lot of this crude and will continue to do so if we see prices drop further.
And just touch on the fact that we have seen domestic gasoline prices in the United States dropping to their lowest in more than 2 or 3 years. It's interesting because, as you know, electricity bills have been climbing in the US. People aren't happy about that. So probably President Trump is doubly motivated there to keep the gasoline price down.
Yeah, exactly. There's that kind of oxymoronish situation there, right, where you're seeing that natural gas price. You showed it in the last interview there. We've seen it screaming higher. It's come back down a bit, but cold start to winter has ramped that up. But just because of the demand side of the picture, driving on power prices there. Gasoline, though, yeah, dropping below $3 a gallon is a real boon for the consumer. That really appeals to Trump's base. And you've got to bear in mind as well, while the national average is just below $3 a gallon, in some states, such as Texas, it's dropped below $2.50 a gallon there. So near 5-year lows, essentially. And as we kind of move through a seasonal period here where you do see demand coming off, you see refineries coming back in December, we should expect those gasoline retail prices to gradually edge lower as we move into January here, especially if we see oil prices continuing to gradually move lower as well.
Before we let you go, though, is there a comfortable consensus? Oh, there's a glut in the world oil market. Could oil stage a surprise rally in 2026?
It doesn't seem likely, particularly through the first half of the year, simply because of the size of the surplus. Even if we're overestimating the surplus that is coming through, it is still going to be a large surplus anyway. So because of this, we should expect prices to be in check through at least the first half of next year.
Thanks very much, Matt. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Matt Smith, lead oil analyst at Kpler.